My name is Diddy. And I'm non-binary. My pronouns are she, they. And I'm queer.
What a gift to be here for who we are, this queering of the church.
Happy Pride to everyone except for my 7 children who have all betrayed me by being straight.
Bringing your kid to a pride parade is like bringing your kid to Mardi Gras.
Pride 2025 is here, and the only thing coming out is corporate bankruptcy.
For freedom, we're not going anywhere, and Pride is not just going to be a celebration, it's also going to be a protest.
I don't know what to make of this. Hi, my name is Sydney, welcome back to hell. And as per usual before we launch in, today's video is sponsored by Fume. So this is once again one of those videos that I had a really hard time putting together, namely because there are so many examples to illustrate my point, and it's a little overwhelming. It's so hard being asked to pick only my favorite psychos. This video was also quite challenging to edit on account of all of the nudity and inappropriate behavior, which probably makes its own point all by itself. So, you know, be gentle with me. I've done the best I can with the cards I was dealt. I've now seen more naked man butts than I care to admit, and everything I've learned about kink has been against my will. Anyway, now I don't know about the rest of you, but lately I have noticed a very big swing away, not only from Pride, but the LGBT community in general. Or the movement, I should say. Year on year, it seems that there was a huge emphasis placed on this community, and year on year, the movement and its objectives have expanded, giving us huge parades, events, and representation absolutely everywhere. But Pride 2025 has been unbelievably lackluster, and what's interesting, at least to me, is that the LGBT community in general doesn't even seem to be fighting back. Are the gays fatigued by other gays? Is that what's happening? I'm sure you've all seen online that parades and events all over the place have been cancelled or scaled back. Others have been cancelled for low attendance numbers. Some organizers have been left hundreds of thousands of dollars in the hole after major brands pulled their sponsorships, including MasterCard, PepsiCo, Nissan, Citi, DoorDash, just to name a few. Brands didn't bother changing their logos to the Pride flag like they usually would this time of year. Target has all but removed its Pride merchandise from stores after backlash over its trans-orientated items, including tuck-friendly swimsuits. Okay. White liberal women are very upset about this one.
Happy Pride Month. In my Target that used to have the Pride section, it's now all USA. Yay. It's an American summer.
This woman probably knows approximately 0 gay and lesbian people, and yet she's mad on your behalf. Very on brand. Some people have pointed out that Google is preoccupied with promoting Father's Day here in the US rather than changing its logo to anything Pride related. The corporate abandonment of Pride has been so severe that even left-wing outlets have been writing screech pieces shouting into the void about how this is all Trump's fault, pointing to his administration forcing the rollback of DEI initiatives. And honestly, maybe that's what a lot of this is about. Or maybe this also has to do with the fact that people, including gay and lesbian individuals themselves, are sick and tired of Pride and what the LGBT movement has become. And as a result of this grand disillusionment, and as a result of this collective disillusionment happening, I think that we are observing the collapse of a movement in real time. It's almost like when you let things get co-opted by extremists and psycho people, it drives normal people away. Absolutely crazy. Who would have thought? Gay and lesbian people who don't make their sexuality their entire personality have become disillusioned with the queer, trans, and gender-obsessed part of the movement, which explains the recent creation of organizations that demand the LGBs divorce the TQ+. I mean, let's be real. You know things have probably gone too far when you can't include all the letters in your psycho acronym and instead have to use a plus sign. Sometimes when I make these videos and therefore I have to think about these things a lot, it just occurs to me how unbelievably stupid most things are most of the time. More importantly, if the 2024 election is anything to go by, Americans in general have overwhelmingly shifted away from progressivism, and that change comes with an upheaval in attitudes towards social causes. For the first time in a long time, polls show a consistent but steady decline in the support for the LGBT++ community.
For the last few decades, the story of LGBTQ+ rights in America has been one of increasing public support. But now a new survey finds that for the first time in years, there's a slight decline in that support.
And the irony is that this is largely the fault of the Rainbow Mafia themselves. Because the queer activist class that has become the face and voice of this movement has long stopped advocating for rights and freedoms and instead has taken things so far away from rationality and sanity. And as a result, they have driven this community right off the edge of the cliff. If we have learned nothing else in the last decade, it's that you should probably keep the they-thems out of anything you're trying to do, lest you want to end up in the proverbial ravine with lots of sharp, pointy rocks at the bottom to break your fall. Also, just an aside before we get into this video and I traumatize you with all the examples I found and many things you've probably forgotten about at this point, I just want to make the point that I don't talk a ton here about the trans movement because I've already covered why that imploded in 2 separate videos on this channel recently, which I'll link in the description box. The other thing to note is that all of this nonsense kind of happened all at once, or at least it was evolving all at once, so it's very challenging to lay it out chronologically. I did my best, but yeah, it's sort of all happening at the same time. Please forgive me. I'm doing my best. But do you want to know when we're not doing our best? When we're slaves to a bad habit, which is why today's video is sponsored by Fume. Fume rhymes with broom. And like a broom, your Fume is a nifty, award-winning flavored air device designed to clean up your bad habit. And by clean, I mean giving you an alternative to the ickiness and chemicals and toxins that you are probably putting into your lungs. It's not good for your body. Sure, you could use a vape with its heating components and gross chemicals, or you could use your Fume, which uses these little flavored cores that allow you to draw air into your lungs. Clean, you could say, just the way you like it. Fume has a range of delicious flavors to choose from, including their brand new mango option. As you all know, I am a sparkling grapefruit gal, but this mango core smells so friggin' good, and it's perfect for summer. But this isn't just about the cores. Fume has expanded their range to include this nifty little base to hold your device, this beautiful Solano fume, and of course, these little mouth toppers. I can't think of any more broom analogies, but these little toppers give you a better experience. So if you too want to conquer your bad habit with this delicious flavored air device, then click the link in the description, scan the QR code on screen, or go to tryfume.com/Sydney. And of course, don't forget to use code Sydney to get your free Fume topper when you order a journey pack. Pride's origins in the United States began in 1969, when gay and lesbian people faced off against police during the Stonewall riots in New York City. A year later, the first Gay Pride Liberation March took place in Manhattan in 1970. The parade's official chant was, "Say it loud, gay is proud." The objective was to destigmatize same-sex attraction, eliminate discriminatory laws, and achieve freedom and societal acceptance without the stigma. Fast forward to the 2000s, and much of this had been achieved, at least in the West. Don't know about the other countries. Then with the passage of same-sex marriage around the globe in the 2000s through to the 2010s, many LGB people felt that they'd achieved what they set out to do. Acceptance was achieved, and it was time to hang up their hats and go about living their life. But things were starting to go pear-shaped long before this. When I say that, I mean that the seeds of stupidity had already been sown. In 2009, trans issues took center stage when Obama included transgender in his June 1 Pride proclamation. The recognition on a federal level signaled a shift away from gay and lesbian rights to broader gender identity issues driven by trans and queer activists. This opened a bigger can of worms than anyone could have possibly imagined, leading us down the path of men in women's spaces, men in women's sports, debates around bathroom access, medically transitioning minors, and performing irreversible, life-altering operations on vulnerable adults. Very good. Not to mention all of that forced neo-pronoun use in government and workplaces and schools. They really love some forced compliance. It was even here that some gay and lesbian people felt that their movement was being co-opted and overshadowed. Soon, everything was about the T and later, the nebulous Q+ part of the community. Between 2016 to 2018, the rainbow flag went through a metamorphosis of sorts, getting a makeover with the Philadelphia and Progress Pride flags. There's so many P's in all of this. Adding stripes for non-white people and trans identities. Since then, they've added the intersex symbol, because I guess we gotta have those chromosomal abnormalities in there. And apparently they've also added some feathers recently for Two-Spirit. When I tell you I am tired.
And the other new addition to our flag is the two feathers in the circle, which represent Indigenous folks that identify as Two-Spirit. One feather represents feminine identity, one feather represents male identity, and the circle that holds them together represents the unification of both identities.
This is getting stupid, right? I'm not the only person that thinks this is getting stupid. Anyway, by this time too, LGBTQ+ was ubiquitous in media, policy, and education. The Obama administration in particular had long been using LGBTQ+ in official documents, and media outlets adopted it in style guides by 2017. Somewhere along this road, Canada went even further, rolling out an even more absurd acronym, 2S LGBTQI+, in official speeches and other documentation.
There's been a dramatic spike in violence and discrimination targeting the 2S LGBT community.
It's Pride Month. It's a time to celebrate the 2S LGBTQI+ community.
To accelerate social and gender justice for 2S LGBTQI+ people in Canada.
I love watching all the videos where politicians are struggling to say this acronym. Watching them stumble over it is honestly beautiful to me. That's what you get for being moronic. This expansion wasn't just symbolic. It signaled a broader shift to include niche identities, which led to the rise in the hundreds of sexualities and gender identities we see all over TikTok now, from non-binary to xenogender. And let's not forget GenderWiki. This has always been a fun place if you want to take your brain there and then hate yourself. I also especially love this entry, which is hetero-romantic, which describes individuals who feel romantic attraction to people of a gender different than their own. Within the split attraction model, its sexual orientation equivalent is heterosexual. So it's just straight with extra steps. Got it.
That just sounds like slavery with extra steps!
Then, because we actually live in hell, polyamory and thruples and other odd relationship dynamics got lumped into the movement and started showing up absolutely everywhere. By 2010, polyamory was highlighted at Pride events with workshops and floats, confusing people who thought that Pride was about same-sex attraction and not some commentary on relationship dynamics. Critics, even within the community, started to say that this was too much, too complicated, too far from the original fight.
Hi guys, if you're new here, I'm Dana. I am in a polyamorous throuple with my partners Gabby and Eli.
This makes me feel unsafe. And because of all of the insanity coming out of the movement, by 2022, groups like the LGB Alliance were pushing to separate the LGB from the T and the Q+, arguing that the community was being co-opted by insane people. Once again, when your acronym needs a plus sign, maybe it's trying to do too much. Now, all of this on its own was incredibly bizarre, and people were already starting to feel very fatigued, especially considering that the LGBTQIAXYZ community and agenda was showing up absolutely everywhere, in politics, in the cultural space, in the social space. But then there was the push to get kids involved, and this, just like with the trans movement, was where a bunch of people noped out. All you ever have to do is leave the kids alone. It's not that hard. In the mid-2010s, Drag Queen Story Hour started in San Francisco, with drag queens reading to children in libraries. This led to an almost immediate backlash. No surprises there. Critics did not see this as an expression of tolerance and inclusivity, but adults in provocative outfits pushing adult themes onto kids. It also didn't help that you didn't see drag queens showing up at retirement homes or homeless shelters. They only wanted the kiddies. Drag Queen Story Hour had a multitude of problems outside of the obvious. Many performers were not properly vetted, as some had previous criminal convictions for fan of the playground behavior. Then from Drag Queen Story Hour came the idea that it was fine overall to have drag queens performing for children, which led to wholesale, borderline stripper-esque performances in front of kids and their families. Some videos went viral where children were encouraged to give money to the men while they danced.
Chicago now at the center of controversy once again. Critics are tearing into a drag story time for toddlers held at a public library. Protesters on both sides of the issue clashing outside as leaders refuse to cancel the event. The library says it's all about inclusion.
Nervous?
Yes.
How come? Do I look scary? Do you know what I am? No? I'm a drag queen.
If a drag queen wants to read you a story at a library, listen to her, because knowledge is power. And if someone tries to restrict your access to power, they are trying to scare you.
No! Then all of this started showing up in schools and school curriculums all across the Western world. Although, unfortunately, in a lot of ways, this does sometimes feel like a uniquely American, Canadian, Australian English problem. Don't know why we've collectively lost our minds. By 2019, education institutions were all in on drag queens and gender identity. California mandated LGBTQ+ history lessons, and TikTok blew up with teachers showing off pride flags or pronoun lessons in classrooms. And of course, we all remember the photos of the gingerbread person and the gender unicorn. This makes me feel like Derek in Zoolander. Gingerbread man! Man!
Merman. Merman!
Soon, some states were trying to pass legislation that would interfere with parents who didn't let their children transition, and empowered teachers to withhold information like this from parents. In 2024, California banned school policies requiring parental notification if a student changed their gender identity, name, pronouns, arguing it protects the child's privacy.
If you're an educator in the classroom and you're not willing to teach inclusive content, then you shouldn't be an educator.
So I'm not allowed to be out as trans non-binary at school. Do not come up in my comments saying that I am allowed, because I'm not. I live in Louisiana and it sucks here. So of course my response to this is to be as obnoxiously queer as possible.
This is kind of an issue unto itself, given how many teachers like to publicly on social media tell on themselves, especially with relation to encouraging their students to transition, or, you know, that they could be a boy or a girl, whatever it is. There's a lot of those videos out there. It's kind of upsetting. Your job is to teach English, Seth. Worry less about your students' genitals. Then there were the battles happening with relation to LGBTQIA/XYZ books in school libraries. Books that sometimes depicted adult acts and other inappropriate themes and content, particularly for elementary-aged young people. In Australia, we call this primary school.
And now the details. Librarians at the Central Bucks School District have been ordered to remove 2 titles from library shelves. Both books deal with LGBTQ issues, and it's the first book ban under a controversial new policy passed earlier this year.
Parents railed against this, saying that they didn't want their children having access to what essentially rhymes with corn, if you know what I mean. Activists argued that this was bigotry and narrow-minded. Nope, just don't think 7-year-olds should see men giving other men the old, you know, sucker fish treatment.
So Pride Puppy was the book that was used for the pre-kindergarten curriculum. That's no longer in the curriculum.
That's the one where they are supposed to look for the leather and things and bondage, things like that.
It's not bondage. It's a woman in a leather.
Sex worker, right?
No.
No?
That's not correct. No.
Gosh, I read it.
It's a drag queen.
Drag queen and drag
correct.
queen.
The leather that they're pointing to is a woman in a leather jacket. And one of the words is drag queen in the search.
And they're supposed to look for those.
It is an option at the end of the book, correct?
Yeah, okay.
This is not kid-friendly at all. Nope, not even a little bit. This video is very hard to film. Yeah. Gee willikers, this is probably where all of those accusations of grooming have come from. People say gee willikers anymore, is that a thing? I hope it's a thing. Around the same time, mainstream kid shows were including LGBT themes in their episodes. Blue's Clues dropped a pride song with drag queens singing about different family dynamics. Let's not forget the little beaver here with the double mastectomy scars. The show Ridley Jones introduced a non-binary character, and Rubble and Crew added subtle queer themes. Yeah, we see the trans-colored socks here, okay? We see what you're doing. Some online shows were created with the express purpose of talking to kids about gender identity and the LGBTQ+ agenda. Parents started asking, why are preschool shows teaching gender identity, and why are you telling my little boy that he can be a little girl? Then there was the emphasis on not only drag queens generally, but drag kids. And this, I fear, is where we, yes, went off the edge of the cliff, fell into the ocean, sunk down into Mariana's Trench, and then got eaten by plankton. Or algae? What is at the bottom of Mariana's Trench? The little guy with the light? I'm sorry, I'm not well. In 2022, a Dallas event called Drag the Kids to Pride had children dancing with drag queens while adults tipped them. That is not a sentence I ever thought I would say. In the club's background, there was a neon sign that read, "It's not gonna lick itself." And I know that you guys are clever enough to understand what that means. So, yeah, super appropriate, love this. Years earlier, children like Desmond is Amazing and Nemus Gold caused a stir after both children appeared in numerous videos performing for adults. People online were extremely upset about both kids, particularly after Desmond is Amazing was filmed doing drag for adults in a bar setting, with the adults throwing money at him during the performance. So there was this song that my dad used to make us listen to when I was a kid, and the lyrics were, "Rip, rip, wood chip, turn them into paper." And somehow I just thought of that and was reminded of it, talking about these men throwing, you know, dollar bills at little boys. And I don't know, I feel like that's poignant and applicable, if you catch my drift. I want to force them into the wood chipper head first.
I would define myself as an inspirational drag kid. But if I had one word, I think it'd be amazing.
Back in 2019, the magazine Huck also highlighted Nemus Gold and his journey as a child drag queen. The accompanying photos with the spread were a bit grim for many readers. I'm not going to include them because it's kid and it's a bit weird. Anyway, these are just two children. Soon we had shows like Kids in Drag that documented young boys participating in a drag competition, or Generation Drag, produced by Tyra Banks, which featured 12 to 17-year-old kids preparing for a drag ball, whatever that means. And I mean, like, speaking of shows, over the years we've had all sorts of these things that highlight trans children or babies or non-binary 3-year-olds. I'm not sure what's worse, or if there is a worse, but eventually all of this culminated in people calling to have children at Pride around kink, and the promotion of kink at Pride in general. Some of you might remember a particularly notorious New York Times article published in 2021 where a mother argued that she wanted her child at Pride around the inappropriate behavior because it was part of the community. And seemingly, a lot of other people agreed, because then we had an onslaught of videos and images popping up year on year, showing children with naked adults looking at those in fetish gear, watching people simulate adult acts on one another, while little humans watched on wide-eyed. Why is this a thing?
I'm just going to ask you a few questions real quick. So, what is going on with you being naked? I mean, is there something
it's
wrong
legal
with
here.
You? Or, I know it's legal here, but you got kids all around you, and I noticed I've been sitting across the way reporting on the event, and every single time kids walk by, you're enthusiastically waving at them, trying to get their attention.
In case you're wondering why so many people are starting to no longer celebrate Pride, I will show you exactly why. Because when you go to a Pride parade in New York, you see a child right next to a topless woman who looks so excited to be there. If this were a straight man on any other month or even day of the year, this person would be charged and put on the sex offender list. I don't understand the double standard here, because this is the same exact thing. Stop using Pride as an excuse to get naked around children.
Howdy, my name is Julie. I'm an adult human female, and I just want you to know that children do not belong at Pride events. I, as a lesbian and an elder gay, And I'm here to let you know from the community that it is the most perverted, disgusting event ever. It is not what it was decades ago.
It didn't help that Pride organizers like Pittsburgh's in 2022 insisted on youth zones to support queer kids. But when parades included suggestive costumes or kink displays like leather floats or pup play dog mask men, which popped up in San Francisco in 2022 and honestly in other years, people started questioning why kids were there at all. And the messaging around it didn't help at all. In 2021, the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus released a song with the line, "We're coming for your children," which they argued was satire. But it didn't really matter, given that this was basically a PR disaster, with many people arguing this group was finally saying the quiet part out loud. But the degeneracy had well and truly been associated at this point with the movement. There was no undoing that. And taking kids out of the equation didn't help to restore the community's image. Pride events had turned into an exercise in depravity, with kink, fetish, nudity, lewd acts taking place in person, in real life, in front of other people. And a decent portion of gay and lesbian people abhorred this and refused to participate, while others cheered it on. I found so many articles like why kink, BDSM, and leather should be included at Pride and keep Pride nude, which both essentially argue that fetish is an expression of queer culture and sexuality, and criticisms of these are racist and bad for children. I'm not joking. They make the claim that this is racist and harmful to children. I think we have different perceptions of harm to children. Is there a way that we can just put people who think like this on a ship and then send them to Jupiter? I would like that. I support that. On top of all of this insanity, there were the very, very public scandals. In 2022, Sam Brinton, a non-binary Biden official, was caught stealing women's luggage from the airport and then wearing it in photos online. In 2023, a Senate staffer made an adult tape in a Senate office building. The individual who was involved showed zero remorse after the fact, telling New York Magazine that he didn't regret what he did, and given how boring his job was, he was only finding a way to entertain himself. And let's not forget the 2022 attempts, while fringe, to normalize MAPS, or fans of the playground, with some groups arguing that this was just as much a sexuality as same-sex attraction. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think this same push came from the bestiality crowd, and the men who want to dress as little girls and be in diapers and things. And actually furries. I'm sure that furries fit in here somewhere. Honorable mention for all the children who started identifying as cats and birds and fish and whatnot. That's probably the furries' fault. I'm gonna blame the furries. Let's also not forget that in response to all of this and the people who were pushing back against the indoctrination in schools and these drag kids and these drag events and what have you, there were always the LGBT plus protesters who turned up to clash with the people saying, no, please don't do this to our children. You don't have to look far at all to find video evidence and articles and whatnot about these clashes, which unfortunately I can't show you on YouTube. I would love to, but I can't. Anyway, I could continue listing examples, and honestly worse examples that aren't YouTube friendly, because there are a lot of them. But regardless of how many of these I show you, the point here is that this has led to the very aggressive and sharp turn away from the LGBT movement, the community, and Pride. See, I don't think that your average person actually cares if somebody is gay or straight or a bag of turnips. I think what they care about is having these ideas and concepts and things shoved down their throat. I think people are fatigued, especially with the trans movement, especially with the gender ideology movement, with this queer activism that we're seeing everywhere, and I think your average person just wants to be left in peace. The irony for me is that plenty of gay and lesbian people who I either know personally or have seen online are so disillusioned with this movement and this community that they themselves have completely separated. These are people who do not feel represented by the corporatization of Pride, nor the degeneracy and depravity that goes along with all of this. The activists who have pushed for all of this have created a rigid resistance to all things associated with the rainbow flag, and ironically, their efforts to force acceptance have only created more derision, given they associated their community with some pretty pretty gross things. It also doesn't help that these activist types take to social media and gloat about making others uncomfortable or upset with their antics. Similar to the point that I made about the collapse of the trans movement, people are so sick of the zealotry coming out of this community. They are tired of walking on eggshells lest they be accused of homophobia or one of the other 5 bajillion phobias. They are tired of being berated for not celebrating or backing a movement that has gotten progressively more and more bizarre and depraved. I think most of us are very fed up with being accused of bigotry when we ask that children be left alone and pride be less inappropriate and sexualized. So when you put all of this together and more, all the things that I haven't mentioned in this video, it's really not surprising why some people are reneging their support and the people who were largely indifferent are starting to actively dislike this movement and this community. Color me crazy, but when you watch enough videos of children giving money to drag queens or shoving money into their clothing as they perform, or little kids interacting with men in puppy play fetish masks and whatnot out in public, it's probably enough to sour one's opinion of not only the community, but just pride in general. So while progressives scream very loudly about homophobia being the primary root reason why people are moving away and getting off of Rainbow Road, your average person has stopped listening and stopped caring. Because when you make everything about weird, gross sex stuff, no one wants to hang out with you. Imagine that. The gross public behavior, the emphasis on the trans, queer, gender ideological portion of all of this, the going after children has only really accelerated people getting very fatigued with all of this. And in the end, I am very curious to see if this will lead to a toning down of the events and parades and what have you with relation to Pride, or if this will lead to the activist class doubling down and getting even more aggressive and more obnoxious. I guess only time will tell. Now on that note, and before I open the floor to all of you, this is just a reminder to check out Fume using the link in the description. As you guys know, I love Fume. They have been such a great supporter of this channel. They are a great company, so if you are struggling with a bad habit that you are looking to stop, definitely check them out. Now, open the floor to all of you. What do you all think? Are you on my side of this issue where you think that there will be quite a big pendulum swing away from the depravity and the ickiness and whatnot that's gone along with Pride over the last number of years? Do you think that this is kind of a natural byproduct of any movement, that they always accelerate ultimately into zealotry and extremism? Do you think that this is a good thing? Do you think it's a bad thing? Do you think that corporate pride is over and corporations are done with all of this? Do you think that it's Trump's fault? Do you think that it's not Trump's fault? Do you blame the activist class like a lot of people do? And what you generally make of this issue overall. As always, if you have made it this far in the video, congratulations. I always like having you along for the full ride. If you are new here and you are not subscribed already and you would like to see more of me and more of this kind of content, feel free to subscribe to the channel, as well as leaving this video a like and a comment, because I do read the majority of them and I like hearing your feedback. Of course, and as per usual, I hope you all stay safe and well, my lovely little petal babies, and I will see your wonderful pretty faces in the next video.